learned how to fish with nymphs. We talked a little bit about dry flies. What are things a trout feeding on? Things that swim. Hi, Dave from Jesse Brown's here. Going to be talking about streamer fishing for trout. Trout not only feed on insect larvae and adult insects, they also feed on a lot of things that swim in the river. Those things can be frogs, those things can be sculpins, those things can be dace, little bait fish, those things can be salamanders. They're opportunistic fish. They're trying to eat, they're trying to grow. So, a lot of times it's very effective to use a pattern that looks like some of those vertebrates that are swimming in the water. So, when we're streamer fishing, we want to make sure that that streamer is getting down into the current. So in your streamer setup, go ahead and get yourself a sink tip line. All right? Sink tip line is going to help make that happen. It doesn't need to float. So make sure you get one of these, put that on your streamer setup if you have a separate streamer setup. If you don't, and you don't feel like buying any sink tip line, you can always substitute with some weights, right? We all know I like weights. Weights work well. You can use weights when you're streamer fishing. Let's say that you are fishing with nymphs all day and you want to switch over to a streamer. You think it's going to be more effective. So you can always throw on some more weights and fish with that streamer. Okay? When you're streamer fishing, there are some good conditions to look out for to know whether it's a good time to start streamer fishing or not. One is you're just noticing a lot of bait fish in the water. All right? The other is a good time to go is when that water is moving fast. Fast water, a little bit tannic water, is a great time to use streamers. So different kinds of streamers out there, there's tons. There are many, many different kinds of streamers. One classic here, the woolly bugger. One of the most classic flies out there. Rated as one of the best flies you could possibly use. All right, woolly bugger is going to look like a multitude of different things. It can look like a nymph. It can look like a bait fish. It can look like a salamander. So always have some woolly buggers on you, right? We also have some sculpin patterns. Sculpin are little fish that live near the bottom. They have a wide body. They live all throughout the stream. They like to hide under rocks. Trout go nuts for them. So there's all kinds of different sculpin patterns you can get. A muddler minnow. That's a classic pattern right there. And how about a clouser minnow? Like, gonna look like a multitude of different bait fish. And it comes in a lot of different colors, nice and simple, right? These are just an example of some of the trout streamers you can use. Some even get even bigger. You can use segmented trout streamers to make them look like even bigger fish for some of those big brown trout and rainbow trout that are pushing their way to the front of the run. All kinds of different streamers. Find out what lives in the river system that you're fishing. Try to replicate some of those streamers. When we're streamer fishing, it's going to be different than nymphing, right? We're not doing a ton of dead drifting like we are with the dry flies and the nymphs. So, what we're doing when we streamer fish is we want to try to swing that streamer across the current and put it in front of those fish's faces. It's going to swing past, and they're all going to get a look at it, okay? So what you do is you want to try to cast to the opposite bank, all right? Cast to the opposite bank at an angle, and then you want to tighten up that line, and you want it to swing across the current. Now the thing to watch out for is you don't want it to move too fast. What happens a lot is you cast it out and start to get that swing, and there's a big bend in your line. When that bend is doing, that current's pushing it, and that's making your streamer go whoosh across this river. What you want to try to do is make sure that line is straight. That line is straight, it's just ferrying across the stream, and all the fish are getting a good look at it. That's one way I like to streamer fish. Another way, probably my favorite way, is I'll actually put a little strike indicator up way above my streamer, and I'll cast it up in the current. I'll nymph that streamer just like I would a regular old nymph. I'll nymph the streamer down the run, make sure it gets nice and deep, make sure fish are getting a look at it. It could be a dead bait fish, could be a dead salamander, right? Then once it hits and straightens out in that current, then I'll swing it across just like I would. You can do that with a strike indicator, without a strike indicator. Either way, either one of those tactics will work. Just make sure that that streamer is getting down there. Don't forget, once that swing is over, what you want to do is you want to strip. right? Make it look like whatever you're trying to imitate. If it's a bait fish, it might be darting. You can do a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? If it's something that's going to be swimming for its life after a fish sees it, you can do a big, thick strip, all right? Or you can just do little bops, all right? It all depends on what you're trying to imitate. But just make sure you swing it first. Make sure all those fish have an opportunity to see it. So remember, get your sink tip line, get your weights, get those streamers down there, and try to figure out what the fish are feeding on, whether it's sculpins, whether it's chub, frogs, sometimes even mice work really well, especially during the night when mice are trying to cross the stream. A lot of people catch a lot of big brown trout that way. But streamer fishing is a lot of fun. It's a different way to fish for trout. You'll really enjoy it. Get out there, be safe, and enjoy yourself on the water.